In part 2 of our interview, we're reminded that life has a funny way of humbling us all, and Stephen receives his first true setback in roofing. A hurricane, obviously, is one of the most widely known hurricanes that's ever hit.
Yeah.
What was it like showing up to a place like that? It's your first roofing experience as Hurricane Katrina. Devastation?
Yeah,
Humbling?
it was.
What would you describe it as?
Before we had went to chase this storm, I actually spent about a month with my dad in Florida before we went to Mississippi, and I was up on the roofs, and I was shingling, and I was putting metal roofs on, and I was getting the feel for it.
Yeah.
And right as soon as I was feeling like I was getting in my groove, it was like, all right, pack up everything. We're moving to Mississippi. And so we go out there, and I think that we're going to go out there and stay in like a apartment or something like that, right?
Sure.
Well, we go up there, and all the hotels are full. All the rest stops are full. And I mean, it's just devastated everywhere. And the hurricane had blew down trees and houses, and there was debris everywhere, and jet skis in the middle of the roads, and boats that were flipped upside down. And we get out there, and I was just in shock.
Were people living like in tents?
People were living in tents. People were, stored up in churches and anywhere they could, really. And so, we ended up having to camp in a tent to help these people. And my dad ended up scoring this big contract with the Army Corps of Engineers, FEMA.
Yeah.
Doing the blue tarping. And they do it right. They roll all the edges, they put battens down, the wood strips and everything, and everything's really professional. And so my dad was like, listen, let's get into this tarping. I think this is the ticket. Well, I was young, I didn't know any better. I just said, sure, Dad, whatever you need me to do. So eventually I ended up having my own tarping crew. That was what was needed. I didn't have to sell because FEMA just gives you a work order. And they're like, here, go do these houses.
Oh, yeah.
So all day long, we're looking at these maps. They didn't have GPS at the time.
Uh-huh.
And so 2005, you can't just type in the address and go. So you're driving around, and you're just looking around, and you're trying to find houses, and all the street signs are blown down. And you're trying to find out where people are, and there's these food trucks coming by, and there's people that are swarming the food trucks because they're hungry and they're thirsty and they need drink and water, and you're right in the middle of it, and you just get caught up in it. And I must have worked for 90 days straight without a break, just all out every day, putting tarps on, driving, and you literally get there at night and you just be so tired.
So you're working multiple crews at that point then?
I was working my own crew.
That's what I'm saying. It was just one crew you had?
It was just my crew.
Just your crew and your guys going out there and doing it?
Yep, and and every homeowner that I went and did a roof for, they said, can you give us an estimate for a roof? Right? Because they didn't know. I mean, everybody...
They need a roof, obviously.
I'm a roofer, right? You need a tarp.
Yeah.
You also need a roof, right?
Makes sense.
So we ended up, getting ready to start selling. Because we're doing all these tarps and we're leaving all this money behind. Because these people needed our help. They're calling us, they're asking us for bids, they want us to do their roof. They liked us. I would go there and the homeowners would get to know me, and they'd say, hey, we want you to do our roof. So we're right in the middle of that, and then another hurricane hits.
Yep.
Right in the middle of it. Right.
Florida.
Yep. Hurricane Wilma.
I remember this.
Well, my dad's got the Florida roofing license. So FEMA calls him up. Hey, Mike, you got a Florida roofing license? You're on. We need you in Miami, right? So my dad's like, all right, pack up your tents. Let's go. And so the next thing you know, I go from thinking that we're getting ready to start a Mississippi operation, right?
Yep.
And the next thing you know, we're on the road, headed to Miami.
But the idea, the dream was still what you were going to do in Mississippi, you're going to do down in Florida. You're basically going to take the tarping business at this time, and you're going to turn that into the tarping plus the roofing because people are going to need it. Is that the plan and the goal there?
That's the vision that my dad saw.
Okay,
right?
So there we go.
At this point, I don't see a vision. I'm just so involved in the day-to-day of everything that's going on. My dad was the one that was the eye in the sky figuring out all the moves.
Okay.
I'm too young at this point. I'm 19 years old, right?
Man.
And 20 years old. And I'm just along for the ride. I'm just making money, right? So we get in the car, we get in the truck, and I drive all the way down to Southwest Florida, and we start tarping every day, same as before. But this time, my dad has all the contracts printed. He has, all these people that are wanting to work for him. He's got all these crews that wanted to come with us, right? Which is a big burden to bring a bunch of people with you, right? Because you got to find housing for them. So my dad's just running this whole thing very smoothly, and so I'm up on the roof, and so I start selling like 3 to 5 roofs a day, and I'm like, Dad, I don't want to do the tarping anymore. I'm like, set me loose and I'll sell you 5 roofs a day, Yeah. And I'm like, my calling is not being up on the roof with a hammer. You know what I mean? Let me go sell. You want to build your roofing business? I said, let me go out here and sell for you.
Yeah.
And so my dad's like, you're right. I got all these other guys that can do the labor. He's like, and remember, I had spent 2 years knocking on people's doors.
Yeah.
2 years. That's all I did. So here I go in Miami, Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale, and I'm just knocking on doors all day long.
Yeah.
And I'm just bringing contract after contract after contract. And my first year in the roofing business, I made over $180,000.
You're 20 years
Yeah.
old. I mean,
Yeah.
you're in heaven basically.
I mean, what else can a guy want?
Right.
I mean, I'm at this point, I'm like, I'm never going to college. What do I need college for?
Yeah.
Right? That's what I'm saying to myself. And I'm saying, all I got to do is sell roofs. And I didn't even think that it would ever run out.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not even thinking that, right? I'm just selling roofs. I mean, there's plenty of roofs to do. Big old hurricane just hit. Category 3 hurricane wiped out Fort Lauderdale and Hollywood and all that. And so I'm having such a great time selling, and I call my friends that I had in Vegas, and I'm like, dude, you got to get over here.
Yeah.
You got to come sell roofs. And so I got people coming in, selling roofs. And my dad literally went from doing a couple of roofs a week whenever I was first working for him, maybe 8 months before, to now he's doing $7 to $10 million in the first year.
Damn.
And so that growth that he took, I don't know how he did it. I mean, because my company, I built very slowly. Mm-hmm. And it gradually built up, but he went from overnight to a 8-figure business, and I just don't even know how he did it.
And he was able to maintain the quality that he was able to put out there as well.
Yeah, he put teams in place, and he could really see the vision, which is what I felt that I never was able to do. I felt like I knew what I was good at, but my dad was always the one calling the shots.
I think somewhere along the line that changed somewhere.
I do.
Because I've had a couple people in your company talk about your vision here today.
Yeah.
That I've been able to talk with. In fact, I talked to your wife.
Yeah.
And she says you're the one with the vision now.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of cool to think that, hey, somewhere along the way, maybe that switched? That maybe somewhere you took over that vision?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would that be fair to say?
I think that's definitely fair to say, and I think that would that all happened whenever I got married and started having kids.
So let's talk about that, because it was around that same time, I believe, that you did meet your wife. Is that right?
Yeah.
How did that process? How did that happen? I mean, is it thanks to roofing? I guess you could say.
Well, pretty much, because what happened is that I actually came into town and I just happened to pick the town that she lived in to set up in. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to set up anywhere in Southwest Florida, so I set up in Hollywood. And I'm like, at this point, I hadn't been to church in like 3 or 4 months. And after being a missionary and living the life of, church all the time, and then not going to church for like 3 or 4 months,
mm-hmm.
and getting into trouble and doing things I wasn't supposed to, I was really searching for some stability, in that regard. So I ended up checking out which church to go to that was in my area. And I found the church, and I show up there that morning, and that was the first time that I met Serena, that very morning. And I didn't even know it, but that was only her second week there.
So I got to ask, how'd you meet her?
At church.
So did you say hi? Was it?
I saw her,
yeah.
and I saw her there, and
and
the missionaries come up to me, and they're like, "Hey, this is Serena. Like, this is Stephen." And so we met, and I asked her, could I sit next to her in church, and so we just got a relationship from there, and right as soon as I met her, I felt like God had told me that she was the one.
That's awesome.
And so what happened was, is that we started dating, and at first it was a chase. I mean, she really put up a fight. Let me tell you, she had other guys in her life and all kinds of stuff going on, and it was really one of those things where I really had to, show her how much I really wanted her, because there was a lot of people pursuing her.
Well, you must have done a good job, because it was only a couple years later, I believe, that you had your first child. Is that right?
That's right.
So you had your first child, and you guys kind of moved forward with having the family. And with the family, though, I know a lot of people out there will understand this, comes pressure.
Oh, yeah.
So you go from being this young kid in Mississippi to a young kid in Miami.
I know.
Now you got a kid.
Yeah.
How does that switch your focus into what you're doing down there in South Florida?
Yeah, I think that for me, having kids, it was just one of those things that really made me start thinking a lot about my future and what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do and accomplish. And I knew that that I was an entrepreneur, and I knew and this was the first time that I started really saying, you know what, I wish that my dad would do it this way. Mm-hmm. I don't like the way that he did that. If it was me, I would do it this way, and it would be way better. Right? And I started thinking like that, and I started thinking that I actually could do it better than what he's doing, and I can run this, and I don't. So I really started to take it that route.
But that had to be a tough time then for you, because I have to imagine you're starting to think that, but around that same time, I got a chance to talk to your father. He starts to have a little bit of health issues during that time. So are you weighing that I can do this damn better than what he can? And then as well, you're thinking about, well, your dad's going through some health issues. What do you do with that? Are you juggling both those things?
Yeah. I mean, there was a time that one time my dad, he had his first, a heart problem. And I've never seen him sick in my life. And so we're right in the middle of 2 years into the hurricane season, and we hadn't had a hurricane in 2 years, and everything is just, all the business is slowing down. I was no longer selling 5 roofs a week.
Got the kid.
You're 2 years into a storm, right? I mean, you're not selling as much as you were. And so going from 0 to 10 million and then back down to 5 and 4, that's a hard crunch. It puts a cash flow, right? So my dad comes up to me and he says, Stephen, he said, I don't know what's wrong with my heart. He said, but I need you to go out and collect as much money as you can. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, basically told me, if you don't go out and collect money, we're going to go under. Because I didn't have anything to do with the finances at the time.
Right, you thought business was just slowing down at the time, right?
Yeah.
So now you've got...
He didn't really tell me how serious it was. So I go out and I just collect, every single job, every deposit that I could, every metal contract. I'm going asking people for their third deposits, and I just go out and collect a whole bunch of money. And that was the time that I knew that something was wrong, that the business was in trouble.
So, let's cut the BS then. What happened to the business? What was now you can look back on it in hindsight. Mm-hmm. What was going on during that time?
I think that we just got too big too fast. That's what happened. And it's probably I guess you could say it wasn't my fault, but we sold too much, to keep up with. And so you get really big, and then when the business is not there anymore, it shrinks down. Not many people can overcome that. I mean, we were talking about some stats earlier, and hardly any companies last more than 5 years, 2 or 3 years in a roofing business.
You're absolutely right.
Right? And so that's basically what happened to my dad's company. And he ended up getting into a deal with FPL, Florida Power and Light, and we were doing a coating program with them, and we had some clients that had complained, and very unfortunate circumstances, and he ended up going out of business, and we were shrinking down, and then there was a light. Another hurricane hit. Mm-hmm. Right after 3 years of not having any hurricanes, another one hit, and my dad is like, ding, 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 let's go chase another storm.
So was there ever a time between the two of you, though, because I've got to be thinking that you lose your license. There are people that lose their license and never come back from that. A lot of people. Yeah. They get down on themselves, down on their employees or their people or their family, and they never come back from it.
Yeah.
How do you lose your license and still have heck with it. I'm going to go up there and chase another storm. Right there, you say a light switch went off in your head. Did you look at that as a positive, like this is a sign I need to move forward, or was that
we
tough?
were searching at the time.
That was tough.
We
right?
At the time we were trying to come up with business ideas. My dad had really brought me in as a partner now.
Okay.
At this time, because he had started having some health problems, and he really needed me to step up to direct the company in which way we were going to go. I was the one that brought the FPL thing to him. I was the one that was really directing the ship at this time. And he was just the one in the background that was, putting fires out.